Anxiety can be a scary place when you don't understand what's happening in your mind and body and why it is that you feel the way that you do. So in this video, I'm going to give you some pointers so that you can get the right kind of help. Now, there are different types of anxiety. We've got fears and phobias. We've got generalised anxiety. We've got post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. We've got obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. We've got anxiety about competency, which is often linked with low self-esteem, feeling that we're not good enough. And regardless of what kind of anxiety it is that maybe you are experiencing, one thing that they all have in common with each other is anxiety-fueled repetitive thoughts. And those anxiety thoughts are very much all or nothing, black or white, fight or flight. Now, people often think that anxiety is something that they have to do battle with. But actually, anxiety is not the arch-enemy here. Anxiety is not something that you have to do battle with, because in its own way, anxiety is just trying to keep you safe from something else, the fear. So anxiety is only ever a byproduct of what is being triggered at that unconscious level. What's the fear? What's the root cause? And the key to overcoming anxiety for good is finding out what is that root cause. Now, quite often people have felt anxious for so long that they've forgotten what it is that they even felt anxious about in the first place. And some people are feeling anxious about something that actually happened 20 years ago. But the mind and the body have received no new information to say that it's okay and it's safe to climb off emergency alert. So in terms of getting to that root cause, here are some questions that I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, to set aside the time to bring in that conscious mind and to really think about actually what is keeping this pattern in place. Now, it might be that you experience different levels of anxiety depending on what is the type of anxiety. And you'll find a video on different types of anxiety in the mental health section. But just grab yourself a pen and paper. And you'll see these questions come up on the screen. So just ask yourself, actually, what is it that I'm anxious about? What is my greatest fear? What is it that I think is the worst thing that could happen to me? And then I want you to ask yourself, how true is that on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the most? Ask yourself, where did I learn this fear? Who did I learn the fear from? Maybe it's not even your fear. Maybe it's a fear that you've learnt from a parent. And it's their fear that maybe as a child you picked up. So ask yourself, how old was I when I learnt this fear? And if you're not quite sure, just guess. Say the first thing that comes into your head. Who will you be without the fear? Are you using the fear for some other kind of gain? Maybe that fear, that anxiety, it gets you out of doing things. What are the repetitive thoughts that you think that fuel that anxiety, that keep it alive? And this might seem like a strange question, but asking yourself, do I actually want to let go of the anxiety and fear? And finally, do I believe that it's possible for me to change? Now, it's okay if you found some of those questions difficult to answer. Quite often when people have felt anxious for such a long time that it's become the norm instead of the exception, then this might be the first time for quite a long time that you've actually stopped and questioned, why am I holding on to this? Where does this actually come from? What's the pattern that's keeping this alive? So it's okay if you did struggle. Forgive yourself. But you've moved yourself one step further towards freedom in bringing in that conscious mind and really challenging some of these questions, some of your thoughts. Now, anxiety doesn't just go away on its own. In order to rewire the brain, to think differently, feel differently, you need something and someone to be able to help you to do that, to be able to change those tapes, those conditioned responses that are keeping that anxiety alive. And there's lots of incredible ways that you can find to get the right help. To take that first step, reach out. Anxiety is not something that you have to live with.